वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यं Shri Gurudev Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, welcome everyone. Bhagavad Gita, second chapter we are doing. We did first 22 shlokas. We'll do 23rd shloka today. So this is a famous shloka. So please repeat after me. Nainam chindanti shastrani. Nainam chindanti shastrani. Nainam dahati pavakaha. Nainam dahati pavakaha. न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोचयति मारुतः न शोचयति मारुतः. Okay, so we'll read the translation and purport. I'll read the translation. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by wind. So now we have come to the point where Krishna is specifically and directly telling about the characteristics and the qualities of the soul. So it cannot be cut into pieces, cannot be burned by fire, cannot be moistened by water, cannot be withered away by the wind or dried by the wind. Purport. So we'll read the purport. All kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc., in addition to the modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons. But formerly, there were other weapons made of different types of material elements. Fire weapons are fire weapons were countered by water weapons, which were now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. Okay, so here we see that Krishna is talking about the soul, that okay, you are going for a war, and he talked about how you have to do your dharma, and that may come with some challenges, like being placed in a situation where you have to do justice on the cost of your loved ones. Um, and even for doing your dharma, your duty, your responsibility, you may have to disregard the fact that they are your loved ones, because if anybody has done wrong, they have to actually get the punishment. So, in that context, Krishna is telling the highest philosophy here of the soul and telling that, but it is not that their soul, they as person will not die, because the soul never dies. And in fact, there are so many different types of weapons, but none of these weapons will actually be able to hurt or kill the soul. So that's where this discussion is coming from. And now Krishna is telling for the benefit of all of us, so that we know what are the qualities of the soul. So soul cannot be cut, cannot be burned, cannot be moistened, cannot be withered. And in this purport, Prabhupada is telling about the technology, the military technology back in those days was actually very advanced. It wasn't like they were just, fighting with some uh, primitive weapons. No, they had knowledge of those weapons which we really don't have even now. There are water weapons, there are rain weapons, there are weapons which could cause tornado, and things of that nature. We get a little idea from nuclear weapon, but the nuclear weapon actually is also a type of fire weapon. But we see that after the nuclear weapon, there could be lot of problems after a nuclear war. The whole sky could get you know affected by such a blast, and it could cause scientists, they have different kind of consequences. There's a huge uh, field of study where they talk about nuclear winter and different other things could happen. The point is that it has far reaching consequences. Currently, we know of biological weapons, chemical weapons, fire weapons like nuclear, but we still don't have knowledge of some of these other weapons which are talked about. Um, Science has able to achieve what they call artificial rain. So we have some idea, but how to use it in a way of weapon is still not evident. But the technology was pretty advanced in the past also. And Prabhupada is mentioning here that uh, nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces or annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of the scientific devices. So that's what he's talking in the first paragraph. Now, talking in the second paragraph, he's reflecting to the other philosophers who are not getting the whole point and who have a different school of thought, which is called as the Mayavadis. We have talked about these in our previous discussion. So a little bit more elaboration here. We'll read and then we'll discuss. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by illusory energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original supreme soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts and parts of the supreme soul. Because they are atomic individual souls eternally, they are prone to be covered by illusory energy and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just like sparks of a fire. Although one in quality with the fire are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Puran, the living entities are described as separated part and parcels of the Supreme. They are eternally so according to the Bhagavad Gita also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entities remains a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjun. Arjun became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. Okay, so what we have to understand a little bit about Mayavadis. What do? They have this thought process that one can actually be united with God um, and loses one's individuality and becomes um, in one sense like merge with the super soul. So the soul can merge with the super soul. So this kind of a theory is being refuted here because the soul cannot cut and cannot merge. Those things don't happen. That is being explained, and the example is given of the spark and the fire, that how sparks come out of the fire and they may try to have individual um, existence, but unless they are connected with the Lord. So there is a difference between connected and difference between merging. Merging means you become one with the Lord, but connected means just like in a machine, different pieces have their own role. So if you are connected, if you are having a nut or a bolt, and if it is connected to the machine, it is doing its proper function. But if it is actually disconnected, it is not very helpful. Similarly, in this body, different parts of the body has their own function. Hand is working beautifully when it is connected with the body, but if even a finger got disconnected, the finger doesn't survive. Similarly, the spark doesn't survive. Similarly, our spirituality does not really stay active if we are not in connection with Lord. The spirituality actually is covered and becomes dormant or dead temporarily. So here it is mentioned that there are souls which are living entities, and there is super soul. Both are sanatan, both are eternal, but when they are connected, then that is the perfection. When they're disconnected, then it is not the perfection for the individual soul. And then Varaha Puran is quoted here to explain this very uh, fact that we are separated parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. Um, and eternally we have always existed. It is not, there was never a time, Krishna already spoke this, there was never a time when the souls were not there. They were always there and they will always remain. And then this science is what Arjun is learning from Krishna. Arjun learns this science, he becomes liberated, but he doesn't become Krishna. It's not that, oh, Arjun learned the Bhagavad Gita, now Arjun is same as Krishna. Not like that. It is actually different. One can become self realized, but one doesn't become God. So Prabhupada is pinpointing this aspect, which sometimes people um, come across theories where they talk about you becoming God. So those are called as Mayavadi philosophers who say such things. Okay. Any questions, comments, or any points in this particular shloka? So it was pretty straightforward. So we'll continue next shloka. Anybody would like to make any comments before we go forward? Okay, we'll continue. Please repeat after me. Achedyoyam adahyoyam achedyoyam
Achedyoyam adahyoyam
akledyo shosha evacha
akledyo shosha evacha
nitya sarvagatah sthanur
nitya sarvagatha sthanar
achaloyam sanatana.
achaloyam sanatana.
Anybody available to read the translation and purport?
Yes, I can read.
Please.
Translation. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Purport. All these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit's whole, and he remains the same atom eternally without change. The theory of monism is very difficult to apply in this case because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as a spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the intelligent souls enter into the spiritual planets to associate with the personality of Godhead. The word Sarvagata, all pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live on the land, in the water, in the air, within the earth, and even within fire. The belief that they are sterilized in fire is not acceptable because it is clearly stated here that the soul cannot be burned by fire. Therefore, there is no doubt that there are living entities also in the sun planet and suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word Sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. So this is interesting. So here it is talked about individual soul is more qualities are given. So what are the qualities? Unbreakable, insoluble, cannot be burned or dried, and everlasting, present everywhere. So all these are qualities. unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same. So many things, but eternally it remains the same. So Prabhupada is explaining that these are qualifications of the soul. And he's saying here, again, the Mayavadi theory is also called as the monism. Monism means everything is one, mono. Everything is one. But this is not true, because everything is not one. The soul and the super soul are different. That is the idea here. The soul is uh, very small, infinitesimal, and the supreme is infinite. And the theory that they merge or they break, that is not supported here. And then here there is a little bit hint given towards liberation or moksha, like many people understand. So moksha means coming out of the cycle of birth and death, coming out of this creation. But then before we come out of this creation, where do we go? So here it is mentioned that the supreme absolute, there is something called as a Brahma Jyoti, or the effulgent rays. If one comes out of this cycle of birth and death, one can either be in the Brahma Jyoti, or one can go beyond the Brahma Jyoti to the spiritual world. So in the spiritual world, there are spiritual planets which are talked about in the scriptures, including the Bhagavad Gita, and they'll come in future. Krishna will talk about them. And then talking more about the different words used here in this shloka, one word uses sarvagata. Sarvagata means soul is everywhere. That means that we have a body and we are living in this body. So our soul is controlling this whole body. But then this body is in accordance with this earth. But then there are different planets, and different planets have different environment. So in different planets, according to the different environment, the soul accepts different bodies which are favorable to that particular situation. So in that situation, one is able to get a body which is more or less similar to the environment in that planet, which can actually handle or hold or continue to live there. The other aspect here is mentioned is that even in fire, so we see there are certain living entities which are actually able to take care of extremes of pressure, extremes of temperature. It could be very, very cold, very, very hot. They are able to survive all of that. And even so, even though we have anything which fire touches, we say it's now sterilized. The idea is now those things which could be a contaminant to us, could be infecting us, it is free from that. If somebody is saying sterilize, that word actually means that it is free from all of that. But here Prabhupada is pointing out that it does not necessarily mean that the soul is not there, because soul can exist in any situation and every situation. Just the body which they accept in that particular situation will be different. So that is what is very interesting here, that in the scriptures they don't assume that the life is only what we see and perceive here, but actually it's much beyond that. Okay, any questions, comments, or any points? Any discussion points anybody wants to bring up? All right, so
I
we'll keep
just
going.
I just heard one question.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I just wanted to know the context of this whole idea. What I understand there is a conversation going on, I mean, between Krishna and Arjun. But
So
if you could give a little bit,
Why is
yeah,
Krishna speaking this particular shloka?
yeah. What is the
So
context?
yeah. So when Arjun was hesitant to fight, Krishna is talking that by your fighting, you are not going to kill the Atma. You are not going to be actually hurting their soul. They are not this body, they are soul. The body changes, but the soul remains the same. And in that context, he is talking about the soul. So even in the previous shloka, that soul can't be burned, can't be withered, can't be, uh, cut
Hmm.
by weapons. And even in this shloka, the same thought is going on that Krishna through Arjuna is telling us about Atma Gyan, the knowledge of the soul.
Mm. So basically, it is about trying to convince Arjuna that the karma has to be done, what you are assigned for.
Yes, and your hesitation that, oh, you'll land up hurting them, actually,
Mhm.
yes, their body will get changed, but their soul will not. So, in that context, Krishna is talking about body and soul being different, and he's talking about the body separately and the soul separately.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
Is that okay? All right, good. So, we'll go to the next shloka. Please repeat. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam
अव्यक्तोऽयम् अचिन्त्योऽयम्
अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते
अविकार्यो
अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते
उच्यते
तस्माद् एवं विदित्वैनं
तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं
तस्मान्निदं
नानुशोचितुमर्हसि.
नानुशोचितुम् अर्हसि.
नानुशोचयितुमर्हसि.
Any volunteers who would like to read the translation and purpose?
Hare Krishna. I
Hare
can read.
Krishna. Please, thank you.
Translation. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Purport. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. There is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is infinite, and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Therefore, infinitesimal soul being unchangeable can never become equal to the infinite soul or the supreme personality of the Godhead. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. Repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for reading. Okay, so here it is mentioned soul is invisible, inconceivable. So inconceivable means by our own way of understanding, we cannot really get the knowledge of soul. We have to depend on scriptures. Immutable, this we had discussed the word previously, that it doesn't have avyayam, or it doesn't have changes. So it's not that the soul will merge or break. Those things don't happen. Um, so what is the conclusion? Conclusion is what Krishna is coming to, like Moshimi Machi was asking, what was the context? So this is the context. Krishna is pointing to this fact: you should not grieve for the body. So of course you will have attachment to the person or the living entity, but you have to understand that body is different, soul is different, and doing your duty is more important, and therefore you should not grieve. In the purport, it is explained here that the soul, we have discussed how the size is so small, so it is, practically like impossible. And what is the way to understand the soul? It's actually inconceivable. You can't experiment, you can't do this is beyond your experimental jurisdiction. So what do you depend on? You depend on indirect manner. Like for example, you can't see the air, but you analyze it by indirect means and get to know that air exists. Similarly, by indirect ways, you can understand about the existence of soul and knowledge about the soul, and the authority in that is the Shruti or the Vedic wisdom. The Vedas are also called Shruti. So then, um, if you have a superior authority, which is the scriptures and those who have learned the scriptures, then by their authority you will be able to understand, and then you'll be able to know more about the knowledge of the soul. The example is given that Shabd Praman. So there are different types of pramans or proof. One is Pratyaksha Praman. Pratyaksha Praman means direct evidence. You see something, you know it's there. Like for example, you see the pen, okay, the pen is there, this is Pratyaksha Praman. Then is Anuman Praman. Anuman Praman means, you had this pen here earlier, but then you come back and you see there's no pen. So then you do guesswork. Okay, maybe my brother came or my sister came, they must have taken the pen. So that is Anuman. You know one fact, you see another fact, you see third fact, compile all of that and come to a conclusion. So this is how many times the scientists are able to see different planets and different stars in the solar system, and then they come up with a theory that how a star's life cycle was. Now the star's life cycle is billions of years. So this is by Anuman Praman, guesswork, some hypothesis, and they try to understand from that. And then third is Shabda Praman. So Pratyaksha Praman, Anuman Praman, and Shabda Praman. Shabda Praman means hearing from authority. Authority means those who are authority in a particular field, in a particular subject, we hear from them. For example, there is a neurosurgeon, a brain surgeon, and you go and you take proper training from your high school till you are trained under a neurosurgeon, and then you can become a neurosurgeon. But in the process, you had to learn from authorities who already knew, who already had knowledge. Similarly, in spiritual life, you have to get training from those who are authorities. This is called as Shabda Praman. And without this, you won't be able to actually get the understanding of the soul. Then it is mentioned, unlike the body, the soul doesn't change. So the constitution of the body, the different elements in the body, they're always changing, but not for the soul. Soul is the same. And then towards the end, Prabhupada is mentioning, now these points we have even covered previously, and now they are being expressed again, and there may be some repetition. So somebody can ask why Krishna is repeating. So Prabhupada is mentioning that in Vedas or in scriptures or even here in Bhagavad Gita, sometimes some concepts, some points are repeated to emphasize the importance of it. That way we get a better hold of it. Especially, we living in Kali Yuga, our memories are not so sharp. We can't remember, we can't, understand in one time. So some points which are more important, teacher many times before the exam will emphasize on that. Hey, make sure you do this or this particular concept. So like that, scriptures also, Vedas also, sometimes repeat concepts so that we have got a good grasp on it. Okay, any questions from this shloka? Okay, we'll go to the next. So these have similar concepts which we have discussed before. So we'll try to cover more. We'll do one more shloka. Atha chainam nityajatam. Atha chainam nityajatam. Nityam vamanyase mritam. Nityam
Nityavaman
नित्यमानन्यसेवतम्
Sevavam.
Api tvam mahabaho. Tathapi tvam
आदि
तथापि
त्वं महाबाहो
नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि.
नैनं
Nalinam
शोचितुम्
Sochitam Arahasat.
Okay, who would like to read the translation and purport? Anybody available?
I can read it.
Okay, great. Please go
Sorry.
ahead. Thank you.
If, however, you think that the soul for the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty armed purport. There is always a class of philosophers, almost akin to the Buddhists, who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, it appears that such philosophers existed and they were known as the Lokyatikas and Vaivasikas. Such philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientist and materialist philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage, the life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo-religions, now becoming fashionable in America, are also adhering to this philosophy, as are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaivasika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaivashika philosophy, the so-called soul or Atma vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So, in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there, sorry, I lost it. Um, uh, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment. There is no need to grieve for such incidents. If there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjun as Mahabahu, mighty armed, Mahabahu, mighty armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of Vaivasika, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Okay. So there are quite a few things here. So we'll keep it very simple so that everybody can understand. So Krishna is saying, okay, this is the soul, this is the body, these are the qualities of the soul, and the soul never dies. So you should not be sad and grieving for this, and you should rather focus on doing the right thing which is to be done. But let's say if you don't believe in soul and body, because we discussed how soul is inconceivable, and there were certain people at that time who were having um, vague understanding or no understanding about the soul, and that's true even right now. Many people, they don't necessarily understand or follow or believe that there is a soul. So Prabhupada is explaining about it here. So Prabhupada is saying there is always a class of philosopher almost akin to Buddhists who do not believe in separate existence of the soul beyond the body. So Buddhist philosophy is actually very interesting, and there are slight variations, but in general the focus of Buddhists are not on um, on God, um, and the focus is not even on the soul. So they believe that there is reincarnation, but they don't have a solid idea of what goes from the previous body to the next body. So that concept of the soul is not very strongly understood. But then there are some other philosophers who have even different idea, that they don't even understand soul, or they don't have much to say. They feel like the names are given here: lokayatikas and vaibhasikas. So what do they do? These philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. So in 1955, there were scientists called as Miller and Urey. They did a very famous experiment. And in that experiment, they took some chemicals, different types of chemicals, and they conducted in their lab extreme temperatures, and these chemicals were having similar composition of what they thought was during many millions of years the condition of the earth. And they said there is a primordial soup kind of environment which was created, and extreme temperature, pressure, different other things they did. And then they said certain chemicals are formed which have some resemblance to how the proteins are, and these are very complex structures. And they concluded that, okay, see, now we've been able to conclude such complex structures have come into being, and from this maybe life can come into being. And by that theory, that experiment, they actually proposed that at certain time during the process of creation of earth, there was certain time where small chemicals, they came together and had a protein like structure from which the cell came into existence. Now this theory was like came what almost 80 years ago, and there's no 70 years ago, and there's no real substantial success in last 80 years for them where they have been able to create any kind of life. But that theory exists, and many people seem to think that at a certain point of time the life may appear from chemicals. So Krishna is saying, even if you believe this, then the symptoms of life came and they'll die forever. So still you don't have any reason to lament. And Prabhupada is explaining that modern scientists also had this kind of a misconception that chemicals will give rise to life. This has never been proven. Chemicals have not been able to give rise to life. Life comes from life. And in the next paragraph, Prabhupada is explaining, even if Arjun did not believe in the existence of soul, as in the Vaibhasika philosophy, there would still be no cause of lamentation. Krishna is saying you don't have to lament. Now, what you would think, if there is no soul, what would you think? This body is basically made of chemicals, right? The chemicals came together. So if chemicals is all what this body is made up of, and there is no soul, then chemicals came together and chemicals are going away, it's not certainly a very huge reason for lamenting. Now this is not true actually in practical life, that we consider other people just like chemical. We don't. We have emotions, we have attachment with them. In fact, if a car accident happens, people will first, who are bystanders or police or fire uh, people, they'll come and they'll do one thing first of all. What do you think they will do when there is a car accident just fresh happened just in front of you, let's say? What do you want to do first thing?
Care of
Eh?
the care of the injury.
Care of the injured. Yeah, you will try to find out where the person is. If it's a new car accident, first of all, anybody would want to see if the person is alive or not. Now, person is made up of chemicals, car is made up of chemicals, but person is alive, person is living, person has some difference than the car. So that's the whole point, that it's not just made of chemicals, it has something higher, and that is the soul. So Krishna is saying that if you were to be thinking that it's just chemicals, then also you don't have to lament. And this point is being clarified, that generally we don't really consider some living entity as just a bunch of chemicals, because a bunch of chemicals may spill, they may go here and there, and we will just go and buy new ones. Not a big deal. But a person dies, that's a big deal. That is huge. And that is because of the presence of the soul. Then Prabhupada continues by saying, if there were no rebirth of the soul, Arjun had no reason. So even if Arjun thinks similar to the Vaibhasikas or Lokayatikas, still he has no reason to lament. But then Krishna addressed Arjun as the follower of the Vedanta principles, the Vedic culture, Kshatriya, Mahabaho, which means he will not be believing in such bogus philosophies. He will actually be understanding the philosophy of the Aryavrat, of the Kshatriya tradition. And therefore, Krishna sarcastically is addressing him as Mahabaho or Kshatriya, that, even if you believe in this, then also nothing to lament, uh, O mighty aunt. So this is basically Krishna is talking in a lighter mood, sarcastically saying that. Okay, so what questions people have now?
Yeah, as you were explaining, I was thinking something in connection with the current events that we are experiencing across the world. There are so many wrong things that are happening around the world in terms of people's lives are getting killed. Um, so I feel that this is so relevant, but at the same time, if we think about a saintly person or those who practice Gita or religion or at the higher order, um, we always also confine to the idea that we need to stay calm, we need to practice non-violence. And I know we had this discussion, and as you nicely said, that violence is, as Gita says, that violence is also needed sometimes. But then this higher order people probably, or the saints, probably uh, would not take up such karma as do violence or violence for the violence. And so what should be done if everybody, and probably they don't do this because it's an idea that, well, in the next life that will become your karma, so you will go through the bad karmas or the results of the bad karmas that you did. I mean, you did something in response to the violence, you still acted as violent. But then in the
Okay.
world, in today's world, there is so many things like terrorism just happened in
Yeah.
Kashmir,
Yeah.
or the people getting killed in innocent people getting killed in Gaza, or there's bombing going on here and there. So there's so many things.
Correct.
So who should be doing that? Who should be responding to that? These are injustices in people's everyday life. There are injustices that we experience. So the question is, who will be responding to these injustices? And yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's very relevant to the current geopolitical situation. Um, And that is why we must understand Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield. He did not speak the Bhagavad Gita uh, in Himalayas or in an ashram with some yogis and sannyasis and swamis sitting around. He spoke to Arjun in the time and place where he was going to do an emergency duty, an emergency action he was going to perform. And he's a family person. He has wives, he has children, he has all the things which most people in this world would have to deal with. They have to deal with their duties, responsibilities, conflicting situations, families, situations, different other things. And Krishna explains to Arjun the science of Bhagavad Gita. So, in Vedic culture, which Krishna is also going to explain, there are four different occupations. So, one is the Brahmins, who you talked about, saints, sages, the higher order, sannyasis. They will actually be practicing spirituality, and they have their certain duties, responsibilities, nature, and their do's and don'ts. And then comes Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas have their own nature, they have their own duties, they have their own responsibilities. Same thing for Vaishyas and Shudras. Each of these four have different inclinations. It can't be that everybody has to do one thing. That's not practical. Different people are different and they will be doing different things which they like. So this particular situation, who has to take care of? It is Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas are the ones which are needed. Kshatriyas, and Krishna will be describing it, their duty is to protect. And for protecting, if they fight, if they kill, they actually do not get the karma. That is the thing. If they are doing the war for the satisfaction of Krishna and not for themselves, and they are not killing innocent people, they are actually killing for protection of innocent people, then those Kshatriyas are appropriate. So, administration, war, politics, all this has to be done with those who are Kshatriyas. If they don't have Kshatriya nature, they cannot do it properly. If they have Shudra nature or a Vaishya nature or even if Brahmanical nature, they will not be able to do this role very nicely. So Brahmins have different duties, Kshatriyas have different duties. Therefore, Brahmins, they never say that, okay, I'll become the king. No, Brahmins say, I'll be guiding the king. I'll be become the guru of king. So one time, Srila Prabhupada, he was preaching and traveling, and so many people were becoming Krishna conscious. So then they said, Prabhupada, we'll keep increasing um the number of devotees, and one day we'll have a huge population of devotees in America, and then we will make you the president of America. So Prabhupada said, President? No, I can be the guru for the president, but I'm not going to be the president. So the point was that guru gives knowledge, spiritual guidance. That's the duty of Brahmanas, spiritually advanced. Kshatriyas, if they are spiritually advanced, they accept the guidance and then they act. They do the duties which are needed to be done, and at the level which you talked about, for protection and different things. And Vaishyas, what are their duties? Their duty is actually to make money, do business in accordance with dharma, and use that money for actually protecting dharma and propagating dharma, increasing education. So that is how Vaishyas do. Cow protection also comes in Vaishya. Vaishyas have to, have money, the business people, and they have to engage that in cow protection. Now, if you can't do any of these, then you can follow and assist any of these Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishyas. You can follow, you can work, you can take a job under them and assist them. That is the Shudras, that they don't want to necessarily take any other risk, but they are happy to follow and assist and serve in that way, and that would be Shudras. So different people have their own different nature. Based upon how our nature is, we can choose. For Brahman, it'll be too much to actually go and fight, and they are not actually in that level. But for Kshatriya, it will be very difficult to read and understand scriptures, but they are happy to actually face war like situation. A Vaishya doesn't want to do any of them, but they are very good with money and business, and they can give donations and help out. So that's Vaishyas. And Shudras, they may not be fitting in any of these, but they are happy to follow. If they are guided by any of the three, they can follow and do it. So that's Shudra. Does it make sense? Does it answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
Okay,
Thank you.
sure, thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Any other thoughts, questions, any comments, anybody else?
Hare Krishna. I would just like to add or question or anything. Like
Please.
when we talk about Shudras, Brahmins, and the four castes, what the duties what we have as a human. But in today's world, like you and I cannot do exactly like you and I cannot become like Brahman, Kshatriyas, or any of to say any of the four caste what we have. But as a human, like as a very generally as human, we can use our thoughts or whatever we have like mediums like social media or anything to like we cannot be the army to go and fight, but we can use our thoughts in a very positive way, as an like as in citizens of the country, to use our social media or social handle, not to go to the war, not to go to the war, but like just sitting and just expressing, yeah, our ideas in a
Exactly.
very positive way. Like,
Okay.
I have seen people using their Instagram and Twitter in just posting their pictures and everything. I am not against that. We should do that. But we can also use social medias to to express our thoughts. Like whatever is happening in Pahalgaon, the terror attack happening. Uh, there are so many people who are even justifying this terrorism. Like, don't call it terrorism. There are like few people who are you who just did wrong, and when those people who did wrong are saying that yes, we did wrong and this is the angle of doing it, and yet people are are not ready to justify that. So I think we as a people in today's world, we have social media handles and everything, to use our social media in a very positive and in this way also.
Yeah, yeah. So
That
that is a nice point. So,
Yeah.
so this is in response to what the question was by Moshmi Mataji, that what should we be doing? And I described that depending upon one's nature, one will take different route, and one can actually do. And Rashika nicely is explaining that how it's not just the Kshatriyas, but any of us actually will be do. And I completely agree that any of us and every one of us can play a role and do at our level. Like rightly said, that everybody will not be going for war necessarily, but one can use their own abilities, capabilities, social media, and things like that. But I'll take it one step forward and tell you that even though we say this to everybody, everybody will not do it in the same way. Different people are governed by different natures, and social media will be used by them in their own way, in their own nature. But if somebody is having Brahmanical tendencies, they will actually be explaining the same thing, terror attack in a social media, and make people understand how this is to be taken, what consciousness one should be in, and how to respond to it, ethically, morally, and appropriately. Kshatriyas will actually be furious, and they'll be going ahead with aggressively trying to oppose this kind of a thing where any attack has happened. Vaishyas will try to figure out how we can come together as a country or as people to bring more and more funds, resources, and different things. So different people will have different nature, how they would use even the social media, and we can have our own unique ways of doing it. But broadly, it'll be different for different people. Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra is kind of not necessarily in this day and age a clear demarcation, because all of us have not got any training in any of these. So we are basically like having those tendencies for becoming a Brahman or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, but we are in Kali Yuga, everybody is Shudra basically. So we are basically following and seeing and trying to understand. We are not fitting in any of those qualities. But some people are really good, and they really go for, like, somebody maybe Brahmanically, they will go, and we see so many great saints who are trained and doing those things. Somebody maybe very good in Kshatriya spirit, and they go on do the army, or even if they are not in army, even in social media, they'll be very fiery. They will actually come up with different ways and means how to keep their heart actually feels the pain if somebody is hurt. Kshatriyas, they can't see injustice. They can't, they just have to respond to it. So that's Kshatriya. So similarly, different natures are there, and depending upon how we feel we can appropriately serve, we must do that. Staying quiet and stay seeing injustice is actually not encouraged in the scriptures. It is actually very much opposed. After giving so many options to Duryodhan, when Duryodhan did not agree, then Krishna said that now you it was up to you, but now war is inevitable. So similarly, many times war is inevitable, and we have to protect the poor innocent people, and for that, sometimes war is necessary. Does it make sense, Rashika?
Yes, right. And even I just wanted to, like, there are so many people, like, even amongst as friends also, we sit together and they say कि no, ऐसे नहीं होना चाहिए था, ये नहीं होना चाहिए था. तो like, for example, Abhi Mataji said that ki innocent people in Gaza, and so we say in Kashmir also. But the thing is that there are so many, even in India or in all countries, we have people with the left wing, the right wing. So we are divided into that according to the ideology. The left wing, they do sit and they encourage the terrorism and everything with their words. And the right wing also, people, they do that, you know, like abhi what the terror attack happened in Pahalgaon, or the same kind of thing happened in Gaza. So we can say that this is the local people, they only, you know, um, supported this thing to the I might not be able to, say my thing in a very correct way, but can I use very direct words or something? Like in Kashmir, also, there were so
I
many
would
local
like
people.
to hear that, Mataji. If you say directly, that's fine, unless Prabhuji has any
No,
objection
no,
to
go
it.
ahead. I have no objection to anything.
I mean, I would like to have open discussion. Although I know this is a very saint-like, spiritual discussion, but we are living the life.
Yeah,
So, um, our soul, our bodies are affected by the spirituality, but at the same time, with our everyday living and the surrounding and the context and so many things. So, unless we discuss it openly, I
yeah,
um,
no, these
and
kind
this
of
will not work.
practical application is very
Yeah,
important
and I
for
do not.
whoever we are reading in Bhagavad Gita. How to practically apply in different circumstances is very much important, and it is a little different for different people. Depending upon our psychophysical nature, we may respond and serve in a different manner. And there are so many different ways one can actually contribute constructively rather than destructively. Yeah, go ahead, Rashika.
Yes, because then somebody like maximum people, when I put my opinion, they say ki you are very, very political and very this thing. You are just supporting one political party. So I am like, I am
You
not
have you
supporting.
have some that shows you have some Kshatriya spirit.
Yeah, so I just respond to them ki I don't have any, this thing beneficiary, like I am not benefiting anything to support any political party. Like when we talk about the thing what happened in Kashmir, like when I explain this thing to my, when I put some status on my Instagram and all, so or WhatsApp, so they say you are like, I am saying that I am just using whatever source I have, because I cannot go and fight to the terrorists. So whatever source I have, I am using it, in a way so that people should understand. So there are so many people, they're saying today also, like when we see the news and everything, so there are so many people who are justifying the, who are, saying that ki, uh, justifying this terrorism, that ki terrorism does not have anything or any, any religion or aspect or anything. So my point is that ki, like, I do understand there are devil and evil people and good people. But a good people should not always stay silent. They should also, react in any form. When we talk about Gaza, Kashmir, and I am not being any politically or opinionated on anything. So yeah, there are so many evidences have come out that local people of Gaza and Kashmir, they were the one who were, giving information to the bad people in form and all. So I think what we know, like we should come up and say this thing. There are people in my Instagram, I say they are saying that it is like BJP because of the elections and this thing. So you should not every time get Hindu Muslim angle in this. So my response to those people were like, कि I am not the one who's getting Hindu Muslim angle in this. When a Muslim himself is, saying कि yes, you were Hindu, that is why you are killed. So what is the harm of, why shouldn't we also speak up like that? Because there are so many
Yeah,
people
so
doing that.
let me just share this. So I think we can be politically correct, we can be using the Bhagavad
Still.
Gita, and we can still be direct. There is no
Right.
reason not to be direct. It's just that if we overthink too much about what other people are thinking, then we will be in analysis paralysis.
No, no,
But
not
the
about
best thing
the
is that,
overthinking.
yeah, yeah, but what I'm
About
saying
what
is,
other
yeah,
people are
let
saying.
me just finish, Rashika. So what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that many times different people will have different opinion, and we may not necessarily need to be the slave of other people's tongue. We can see the reality from the eyes of, you know, what is coming in the sources from TV, internet, all of that, and from the eyes of scriptures, and we can understand what's going on. It becomes very evident, and we can respond in the way which we feel is most appropriate. Many times many people will not necessarily agree with us, and part of it is because of the upbringing which we have got and the exposure we have got in Indians in the last hundreds and hundreds of years. Even those who are quote unquote Hindus are actually not necessarily having any real connection with this, with or identification with the Vedic culture, and they don't feel the need to protect. So they will be oblivious to any nonsense happening to Indians or Hindus. They will not really be concerned about it, and that's who they are. We don't have to go ahead and convert those people, because there are a lot of other people who will agree with us and who will support us. So if somebody is in agreement, we take that. If somebody is not in agreement, we just respect them from a distance. We don't necessarily, we can be introspective like what you were introspective whether what I did was right or not. And if you're introspective, if you're reasonable, if you're not fanatically going into a situation where we are acting in a agitated or violent manner, we all have our ways of putting things across. The problem is, for very long time, Hindus have learned to just stay fearful, to just stay in their comfort zone, maybe trying to make money or trying to have a career or have other things. And they're not seeing that your size have shrunk, so much conversion has happened. You don't even know your scriptures, you don't know Bhagavad Gita, you have not really understood the practical application which is so relevant for anybody. So sometimes people say गर्व से कहो हम हिंदू है, they should say शर्म से कहो हम हिंदू हैं, और भगवत गीता का एक श्लोक नहीं आता. So this is
Right.
how people should see that we don't train our children to really love and respect our culture. Bollywood, chaat papadi, samosa, these are not Indian culture. Indian culture is actually how much we can relate to our teachings from the scriptures, how much we are able to having a quality and character of giving respect to others, how much we are able to actually love and care for others. So this is all the Vedic culture which talks about, which is very high principles they have. Political discussions usually don't have any end to it, but because of the sake of time, we need to conclude. However, I'm happy to have final words from Rashika and Moshimi Mataji.
My final words would be, I mean, the discussions were very good, and yes, we do need to learn the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita messages, but at the same time, we need to connect it with the objectives of the real world and the objectives whenever, and I understand Mataji's comments that we have to use whatever the resources we have to condemn these kind of actions which are harmful to the human lives. But at the same time, we have to have a clear objective. Our objective is to save the humankind and not to go into the atrocities that human, as we were talking just now, what Prabhuji explained, that when a human being when a car accident happens, then the first concern is the person is alive or not, or what can be given to the human being. But we, at that time, we don't see that is the person is a wrongdoer or a good doer or the good soul or bad, so we see that. But at the same time, what Gita is saying is, if there are wrongdoers, then we need to finish them as well. So
Exactly.
India,
So
yeah,
just
so
is the
India,
context here.
sorry, India, so I mean, if we look at classical India, Hindus had a lot of division among themselves, and because of which the cruel Muslim rulers came and invaded us, which has no justification. And even today, we are so divided that we don't do anything for ourselves and our protection. But we do have the might. We keep claiming we have the might, but where is the action? And that is so directly, as I'm listening to the discussion of Gita, that is so directly relevant to doing the action rather than, I mean, we Indians talk a lot, but we do not do anything. So that would be, I'm sorry, I'm being very direct, but we have to do things. We have to, and we have the might to do it, but we don't do it. And there comes some politics, some selfishness, some self-protection and whatnot. Those are those are not really a clear objective where we are working for the humanity and survival of the humankind. And that will be my concluding. But go ahead, Prabhuji. I sorry I
I
cut
was
you off.
just no, I was just mentioning that you mentioned division in India. Actually, people are divided everywhere. Like, is US people are not divided? In
That is true.
other countries, people are not divided. There is division everywhere. So it's
Mhm.
not unique to India. The point which I was making was about how Duryodhan was adamant that he's not going to give any land and he's going to take all of it, and he was just, not ready for negotiation. Similar thing, many times we see that a lot of people, especially, who are fanatically trained from childhood, maybe in Islam or other,
Mhm.
cults, where they
Mhm.
are brainwashed that you have to, kill and keep only this. So many times such brainwash caused to the people, it doesn't leave you anywhere. You can't change them. If they want to live peacefully, that's fine. If they can't, then war becomes inevitable. So that is what we saw, Krishna trying to avoid any situation of war, but then it was inevitable. So similarly, we see
Mhm.
here repeatedly tried to avoid, but didn't happen. So now war
Mhm.
may happen. So the point here is
Mhm.
that this is very practical what Krishna did, and Krishna
Mhm.
showed that how the other party is, you have to actually use that strategy. That's what he did in the Battle of Kurukshetra. But that doesn't mean that everybody has to do it. right? There are so
Right.
many other people who did not participate in the battle of Kurukshetra, and depending upon our nature, we may not necessarily need to actively be there, but many times these people who are heroes, they are actually criticized for the heroism. So that is very wrong.
Mhm.
For heroism, people should not be criticized. In fact, they should be encouraged. So if children are there, they
Right.
should get the right knowledge. They shouldn't have
Mhm.
hatred towards other culture or other religion. We will never do that. None of the
Mhm.
people will want to bring hatred to children. So we'll be very cautious, and we'll be very careful in giving the facts to the children, but we want them to know the facts. Many times parents don't even tell them the fact. They are not aware about it, or if they are fanatics, they tell them wrong facts, make the hatred go in the heart of the children, and then they become, totally anti or terrorists. So those are
Mhm.
too extreme. The
Mhm.
middle ground is encourage them, tell them the facts, tell them how to love the people, but at the same time, be careful about protecting ourselves and those who are attacking. And if there is no other option, then you have to actually defend yourself. So this is how, to keep the balance, I would propose.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's what I
Mhm.
also wanted to say.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was nice discussion.